You get ones where they're like, oh, you're a money transmitter. And, it's not that hard to not be a money transmitter. If you just don't do it. You just let the bank do everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we get a lot of that. And then, of course, peptides. That's the majority of the calls you get, right, Jeremy, right now?
Over the past 3 to 5 months, the peptide merchants they've been hit hard. They're like the current poster child for Matchlist.
They're the current poster child. I'm sure you guys are getting a ton of it because I was just surfing with a buddy and he was like so glad to be out and his arm hurt and he's like, I just got these peptides and they totally worked. And I'm like, which ones? He's like, oh, I have no idea. I was like, because a peptide's everything. It could be the weight loss, the everything.
Right. Yep.
So,
welcome to the Payments Experts Podcast, a podcast of Global Legal Law Firm. We hope you enjoy this episode.
High risk is basically one of my favorite topics because arguably, under the old definition of high risk, now everybody's high risk. Our law firm would be high risk is anybody who does any online payments. So, but before we get there, Adam, thanks for joining us. You flew all the way in from Texas just to see us. And how'd you end up in payments? What'd you say before how did you classify it? You're like the least liked, most loved or something?
Well, I think, everyone's got a little love-hate relationship with everything. As far as myself, my career has spanned about 20 years so far, which feels a little bit weird to say because it feels like a long time, and I don't feel that old. But kind of got my start. We started a online education lead generation company, and we grew that to be a pretty substantial size for about 4 or 5 years, and then I exited that business when we sold it to a private equity firm. And then
what is an online lead? What does that business do?
So it was kind of in the 2008, 2009 aspect. Kind of when we were going through the global financial crisis, and we were really good at generating leads for the online colleges, University of Phoenix, Kaplan, the for-profit and not-for-profit online education companies.
Okay, cool.
So after we sold that business, my business partner happened to also be a lawyer, and he started a plaintiff's firm down in Texas. And I went to work with him, and we grew that company for 3 or 4 years. And then he decided that being a lawyer really wasn't what he wanted to do, so he sold that business to his business partner.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, we were both kind of like, well, what are we going to do now? And kind of at the same time, his wife was starting a dental practice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a retail business.
Right.
She needs credit card processing.
Yep.
That was the first time we had ever seen a merchant account statement. My business partner is very brilliant. My background is in finance, and that online education company that we talked about, I was the CFO.
Mm-hmm.
So we look at this statement and we're like, they're reasonably smart guys. We're not fully understanding this.
Right. Someone's
making some money somewhere in here. And so with that, SOAR Payments was born. We probably spent neither of us had experience in payment. So, it was a huge learning curve, trial by fire. There was the two of us and one other person huddled around a conference table in a small office in Houston, learning about underwriting, learning about how to support our merchants, dealing with BRAM inquiries, and just all of the changes that have happened in this industry just in the short 10 years that I've been in it. One of my other business partners has been in it for 20 years, and he tells me some wild stories.
Oh, yeah. How did you find your original upstream partners to where to send deals to?
Really, it was trial by error.
So you just got on the internet, got on Google?
Got on the internet, got on Google, found out who, was accepting agents or ISOs, and then just building those relationships and figuring out what worked and what didn't. As you know, every bank kind of has its own own specialty. So, what one industry might work with one bank doesn't work with another. So yeah, I mean, it was a huge learning curve and still is.
Yeah. Yeah. Finding good partners is one of the most difficult things that we've seen over the years. Now, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there were a lot of really nasty players in the industry that, some of the biggest guys out there, their business model was get agents to come in, submit 10, 15, 20 deals, and then stop. Because then we just get your accounts, and that's great. And they'd build it up and they just treat them awful to get them to leave. Because great, when you leave, I get 100%. And if you do, if you're paying 50, 60, 70% out to your downstream agent, okay,
but
great.
You just doubled your revenue.
I just doubled my revenue. And now I don't have the liability of dealing with SOAR Payments calling me up, complaining about this statement and this and that and the other thing. So some guys have gotten huge just on that model. Now, it seems like it's tipping more towards nobody's out to screw over the agents, except for the big guys, of course, the big processors, they don't care. But now, the bigger outfits, I think they've gotten it, or they've just stepped into the space. Cause as soon as First Data, Fiserv says, we don't even want the ISOs anymore. Forget it. They go give it to Card Connect, but then Card Connect treats them pretty badly too.
Yep.
Most parts. Some people love Card Connect, but my experience is the attorney's experience. We only see when things go wrong. So, when they said no, some of these bigger ISOs stepped up and they go, okay, we'll be the agents, really help out the sales agents, build the technology and all of that. But finding the good ones, the honest ones, is really difficult. It's one thing that we kind of pride ourselves in. People are like, hey, should we work with this guy or that guy? We know who the good and bad people are because
you see it every day.
I see it every day. And if I know who the bad ones are really, really well, it's because I've seen a bunch of bad experience with them. And then the good ones are mostly our clients because they've done the smart things and hired the best attorneys in the space. And we help them be good and stay good and do the compliant work. So
Yep.
It's a huge challenge to anyone, entering the industry or in the industry. And sometimes people just feel like they're stuck. The truth is you're not. There's other people out there.
100%.
So tell us about SOAR Payments. And I want to get to high risk. You said you're a high risk niche aimed shop, which is, where most of the money's made. But, how'd you guys end up in I was saying high risk. I don't, it's just accounts that are mostly online. Or you can explain it. How'd you guys end up in high risk?
So as I mentioned, we business partner, I had pretty strong background in online marketing. So we were able to build a pretty good lead funnel through search engine optimization. And, kind of around that time, you were starting to see the Stripes and the Squares of the world kind of gain traction. So it really was a byproduct of the types of leads that we were getting, right? They weren't able to get processing with Stripe, Square, or Card Connect, the First Data shops and things of that nature. So, it was really, for lack of a better term, following the money.
Yeah. I remember people a long time ago, they're like, hey, we're going to do this online campaign to get merchants. And they'd end up with the scammers. That was like, because who's out there looking for processing? Processing's coming to you. It's getting blown up. Pick up the phone, Google it, and you're going to get a gajillion things. And so it didn't work. So are you guys saying you were picking up leads through your technology?
Yes, absolutely.
Of actual legitimate merchants?
It was a pretty good mix, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of there's a lot of not great merchants in there as well, and that was kind of at least in the very early days a lot of the learning experience, right? Because it was like, oh, this guy has XYZ business and he seems like a straight shooter,
he sent me a bank statement that says he has a $3 billion.
Yeah, he's got to be
legit. Yeah.
So, I think that was kind of how we got into kind of what I call high risk or regulated industry type businesses. And really, at SOAR Pay, we try to be kind of more of a little bit of a boutique shop in the sense that, we really want to provide white glove services to our customers and really understand their business and the challenges that they're having so that we can set them up with, a merchant account with an acquiring bank that understands their business as well, so that we can, keep them processing over the long term. Right?
Yeah, because the alternative is when people are like, oh, I got a high risk account and they just cram it through the door, the merchant account goes up, they're collecting a little bit of reserve, and then they're like, wait a minute, we had no idea what was going on. So, if you're in that space, we're always going, you need to be going to someone like you that understands your business and will actually tell the upstream partner that it's the bank. The bank needs to know. And the processors, they don't really care. Maybe with VAMP, they care a little bit more now.
I think they're starting to care a little bit more.
They're starting to care more. But it's really the bank. And, they don't want the risk.
Right.
Because I know when high risk first started and there weren't all the tools in play, I would go to our clients and mostly low risk shops. I'm going, why don't you take some of this? And they're like, you can lose, $600,000-700,000 grand in an hour if you're not watching these things.
Yep.
So how do you guys, without disclosing your secret sauce, or maybe, we try and give everything away, so how do you guys, how do you work with these high risk merchants? If I'm a high risk merchant and I come to SOAR, what does that look and feel like?
Well, let's see. I would say first, a lot of our merchants come to us because they've been unsuccessful in obtaining an account somewhere else, whether that's, hey, they started their business, maybe they bank with Wells Fargo, and so they, that's where their depository accounts are, right? And, they get declined there, maybe they sign up with a PayFac who, they kind of fall into that instant approval trap,
right?
Start processing, and then they go, oh, wait a minute, we don't understand your business.
Yeah.
You're turned off, and we're holding all this money.
Yeah, win-win for us.
Yeah, which is just creates an epic cash flow problem to the merchants. Yeah, so really, one, I think we've utilized technology a lot, right? We, we have a full online application that kind of goes into our own internal portal or CRM, and that we're then able to review a lot of the underwriting. We use technology to kind of, make sure that we're looking at bank statements that haven't been altered.
Right. Just add a couple zeros here.
And we'll forget a comma here, things like that. And like I said, our sales team really tries to fully understand their business so that, as we send that to our partners, they also fully understand that business.
Right.
And so what we find is that when we do that and issues arise and we're having good communication both with the merchant and with our processors, we're really able to, solve that problem for them.
Yeah, when it's put out the fire before it spreads.
Exactly.
It's one thing that I've always, loved this part of our business. We like helping business. Our goal is to, be the biggest, baddest payment firm out there, disrupt the industry for good. And one thing that we've really prided ourselves on is we got a ton of people on match lists. Mm-hmm. And Jeremy's taking in 30 a month?
Yeah.
Of people on the match list. And sometimes, most of the time they should not be on there. Sometimes they should be on there, but we still end up, helping them out. So,
sure.
Should be on there. Like, should anyone actually be in jail? So so what we do sometimes is we evaluate their business and we go, look, they're on the match list. And then I come to, the processor and we go, look, we've reviewed their business. Here's why they're on the match list. Here's how we're going to get them out. Here's an opinion letter from us saying we've vetted this business out. Mm-hmm. And so when the bank gets that, they're going, look, these guys look legitimate. Now, I can't do it if they're not. But, sure. We get ones where they're like, oh, you're a money transmitter. And, it's not that hard to not be a money transmitter. If you just don't do it. You just let the bank do everything, right? Mm-hmm. So we get a lot of that. And then, of course, Peptides. that's the majority of the calls you get, right, Jeremy? Right
Over
now?
the past 3 to 5 months, the peptide merchants they've been hit hard. They're like the current poster child for Match List.
They're the current poster
Yeah.
child. I'm sure you guys are getting a ton of it because I was just surfing with a buddy, and he was like so glad to be out, and his arm hurt, and he's like, I just got these peptides and they totally worked, and I'm like, which ones? He's like, oh, I have no idea. I was like, because a peptide's everything. It could be the weight loss, the everything.
Right. Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, so
I mean that actually we've seen a huge uptake. We don't have a huge customer base of people that do peptides, but we have seen a huge uptick in the number of leads that we're getting.
yeah, because they're all getting matched left and right, and we're getting them off almost wholesale, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's because they're not correct. Anyways,
Well, because like you said, James, they're running a business. These things are not. People are using them all over the place for good uses, and they're getting benefits out of it. It's not regulated by the FDA. And what we found is it seems like Eli Lilly decided they wanted to nix these small peptide merchants for making money, cutting into the big pharma stuff. So then MasterCard gets the note, sends it downstream. Hey guys, shut all these peptide merchants down.
so it's a big conspiracy, just like everything.
Exactly.
You got your tinfoil hats behind the chair.
That's right.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So when you're in the high risk space, I touched on VAMP. So VAMP very generally is they're saying your risk thresholds for the banks and probably trickles down to the processor have to be below certain levels. And before it was bucketed out. So you know, this one's high risk. Okay, that one's high risk. You know, then you have a low risk one. Okay, you're good with our tolerance. Now they just took the dividers out. So I thought, and this just started in October?
Yep.
October
And
1st.
So my thought is the little banks in the space are going to be out of business because the little banks in the space have a lot of high risk, and they're always praying for low risk. But they're also some of the newer banks, I guess, that got into the space don't know how to make money off of processing. And you see these agreements that are like, why are you guys even doing this? So they're going, well, we have to do the high risk to make any money. And I thought they were going to get shut down. And I haven't heard of that happening yet. But what are you guys dealing with VAMP? Because, based on what you've told me, you guys are the problem.
Well, VAMP is definitely here. I do think it's still a little new. I think that the banks and the processors are still trying to let the dust settle and how are they going to deal with, potential issues.
Yeah.
I don't think enough time has elapsed yet for me to make any distinct conclusions about our portfolio, but I have not seen mass closures. I've seen inquiries from the sponsor banks hey, can you give us some more information about this merchant?
Right.
We've definitely seen fines.
Yep.
I would say this probably started before, October 1st or Q4, but just much more stringent underwriting. Or if, a good merchant has an influx of chargebacks, which in that particular scenario, we typically see around friendly fraud, okay, how are we going to deal with this?
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, the underwriting makes sense because if you're saying, the scale can't tip like this, you need to know this merchant's weight when they're coming in. And that's where you guys, your business, you probably smiling ear to ear at the VAMP. I mean, a little because you're going, no, you need us. You can't just be cramming. Don't call pickup agent so-and-so who's just hustling his high-risk merchants and bouncing them from ISO to ISO because he's making ridiculous amounts of money. Some of those guys that just move those things around and it's made, $400,000 a month for 3 months here. Okay, I got him processing over here. Keep going. But most of those guys, they buy Ferraris and stuff too. And then when it goes away, they're like, oh, it went away. It was it went away every 3 months. Anyways.
Yeah, you're just able to stay ahead of it for a period of time.
Yeah, exactly. So you guys, I think that you guys have a tremendous opportunity, and that the ISOs should be calling you guys saying, yeah, give us this, because you're actually looking at your merchants as opposed to agent scumbag out on the street.
Yeah, it's just Jello against the wall
Right.
approach. Yeah.
Yeah. More like dagger in your knee, like.
Well, and I think you had mentioned like, hey, some of the smaller guys may, run into some trouble, and I think that's absolutely correct. But I do think, I'm by no means an expert, but I do think naturally you're going to start to see some consolidation, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to have some guys that have these huge portfolios that
Right.
are very well balanced, and these other high risk portfolios that are not balanced. But
Right.
maybe if we can combine them, they kind of fit within
Right.
the wheelhouse.
Yeah, I mean, this has been this way for quite some time. Is the low risk guys got more valuable, and I don't think they knew how valuable they were for that consolidation piece. Like we have a bunch of clients at the low risk, give it away, dude. 95 rev share with your agents on low risk, free low rates, you pass through buy rates. I'm making nothing just to keep the scale balanced. And that's where I'm always going when people are like, oh, look, I got this 60% split. And, a 60% split for most is actually more like 40 because it's 60 on top of the buy rates or whatever. So whenever I meet just an agent, I'm like, oh, I have somebody for you. They've got all the technology, and it's free. You're making all the money. So that's that. I think there's a tremendous opportunity for the low risk sales agents that are out there knocking on doors, talking to their aunts and uncles to be actually making some money here. Because, an account down the street, a restaurant, or a small one, you make like $10 a month in a residual, right? Typically, but get that up to 60, 70 a month. Now now you can afford to eat at that restaurant.
Yeah, you start to become a little bit,
Right.
it becomes a little bit more scalable, right?
Right.
So you wrote a book on high risk merchant accounts, which in my opinion would now make you an expert in high risk. So tell us about the book. Where is it on Amazon? Can I get it?
Not quite yet. So the book is titled High Risk Merchant Accounts 101. It should be out, I would say, at the end of Q1. So we've written everything. It's currently with the publisher, getting covers designed and the final edits and things like that. So, obviously, I think a number of us in the industry, I certainly did starting out, read Anatomy of the Swipe and those type of books, which were hugely helpful for someone that literally knew nothing. But it really didn't seem like there has been anything new. And I think specifically as it comes to high risk, it's about bridging that knowledge gap. Right. As I mentioned earlier, in our experience, a lot of folks are coming to us because they were unsuccessful in getting accounts elsewhere, or they were closed elsewhere. And so we really felt like we wanted to write a book that, primarily is for small business owners or large business owners that are in high risk or regulated industries. And with that, we kind of go through, what makes you high risk. This isn't anyone saying what you're doing isn't moral or it isn't legal. It's really just a financial risk designation.
Yep.
And, from there, we kind of go into, well, how does the whole flow of funds and credit card processing work?
Always helpful.
Always helpful.
Yeah. I was going to say, every time I explain it, it ends up a little different because you can go wild. We have whiteboards upstairs just basically covered in ink. Because as you just start to do it, I do it at the beginning of any trial I do. Mm-hmm. I do it for the judge and the jury, and they're always like, that is so helpful. And this is 8 minutes, just the basic, the squares, Visa, processor, bank, here's the risk, here's the fees, because nobody gets it. But then when you start getting into it and you're like, oh, then the sponsor bank, the issuing bank, there's an FSP, there's a wholesale ISO, there's a this, it goes crazy. And that's where with these online guys like you guys, when you're out there generating leads, even for your company and, or I guess the end company taking in payments, you've got a weight tied around your back if you don't understand what's going on with your payments, how to manage it, and how to work with your partners. So you have to have an advocate out there. We had someone on the podcast where she said, what is it? Everyone should have a C-level payments.
CPO.
You should have a CPO.
Yeah, CPO, yeah.
But you don't, you can outsource it. I mean, you can outsource CEO.
Yep.
But, to have, that's basically what you guys are, is we are your payments advocate for the merchant. We took you on the front end and we're helping you walk through the process. And yeah, we're making a little money in the process, but you're saving the money so that you can do what you do best. Because if you're dealing with these issues when the process and getting fined, it's a nightmare. Stop what you're doing, pencils down, stop selling, figure this out. And you're going, I don't know what to do. And the only other people I can call are attorneys.
Right. And I mean, so that's let us worry about the payments. Right. You worry about your business. So I think and back to the book, I think from explaining how the flow of funds work, who are all of the parties, we kind of walk through like, hey, here's what you need to have, or here's how to best prepare your application and your supporting documents to give your application the best chance of approval. And then because it's high risk, we kind of talk through, the enhanced underwriting request, whether it be questions, documents, things of that nature. And then from there, we really kind of walk them through, hey, you've been approved, great. How do we keep your merchant account open for the long term?
Right.
And we kind of go through, I think one is, having that relationship with your payment processor that is your advocate, so that, I'm sure you've seen this, like if they decide that they just want to add a product to their website, instead of just adding the product to the website, they call us, talk to us about it.
Perfect.
So that we can advise them of, okay, yes, this is an acceptable product, or no, you absolutely don't want to do that.
Or let's go have a conversation.
Sure, exactly.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Well, that's exciting. I look forward to taking a look at that. Well, you get the last word. What's the biggest takeaway that you want our tens of millions of listeners to know about SOAR?
Well, I would say, we really try and strive to provide that white glove service, really be the advocate, really work with you guys through, or with our merchants through any potential issues. And if there aren't any issues, great. We just have that, relationship. I think, knowledge is power, which is another, kind of why I wrote the book. One of the things I always say is, to our merchants about our merchants, they don't fully understand our business, right? Like, they don't understand that we are providing, essentially, in my opinion, an unsecured line of credit to their business, right? Yep. Like, everyone's like, all the issuers say, oh, no one's responsible for fraud, but they don't know that it's the acquirer side.
We are.
That are the ones that are responsible for the fraud if the merchant doesn't. I would say relationships are key, whether it's our relationship with our merchants is, again, if it's transparent and it's communication is flowing quickly and it's flowing in both ways, like that's a huge recipe for success. I'd like our merchants to think of us, really as their business partner, or other important vendors like their banker or their accountant, not like their cell phone provider, right? And then, I think that's about it. Knowledge, relationships, and I guess one last thing would be transparency, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can try and hide things, but we're going to figure it out one way or the other. Hopefully we figure it out sooner than later. Those are kind of the three main takeaways I'd like to leave everyone with.
Excellent. And how do people get in contact with you?
LinkedIn's probably the easiest way. SOARPay.com is our website, or you can email me directly at ac@SOARPay.com.
All right.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you.
And
Awesome. Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys.
It's a pleasure
me out
having
here.
you, Adam. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Payments Experts Podcast, a podcast of Global Legal Law Firm. Visit us online today at globallegallawfirm.com. Matters discussed are all opinions and do not constitute legal advice. All events or likeness to real people and events is a coincidence.